Hi, welcome back. This is the first video in the series that will cover Assignment 5. In the introduction, we went over what we're trying to accomplish in this assignment. Very quickly, I'm going to run through the finished solution again to show you what we're after. We're going to have a select. When we click that, it's going to list things out of a users table as well as out of a shippers table. The rest of it is going to affect this table down here. You'll have an insert where you can enter in something new. It will redirect you back to here where you can see the new thing that was added. Update will allow you to, we're hard coding as using ID number 2. But if we change this and update it, it will come back here and be reflected. And delete will automatically get rid of number 2. And again, we're hard coding just to make this assignment a little bit shorter. We'll look at doing it a different way after this. Right now, we just want to get the basics of doing a select, an insert, an update, and a delete to the database. So that's our working solution there. The first thing you're going to need to do is open up PHP by following that link. I'll go ahead and log in to mine. When I'm logged in, you'll see that I can see all the databases that are there. I'm using this one here. You will be using the one that you were assigned. We're going to go to the SQL tab that's here. We're going to come back to the description, and the first thing I'm going to do is use this script that drops the tables. I'm going to do a Control-A, Control-C, come over here to PHP paste that in, and I'm going to drop these tables because I already have them. I'll hit OK. It drops those tables for me. You'll see they're gone. I'm going to come back to the description. This link here has the tables we want. I'm going to do a Control-A, Control-C. Come back to this area. You can paste it in here. You can click the SQL tab once again to get an empty one. Control-V to paste it. Hit Go. And you'll see that now we have a Shippers Lab 5 and a Users Lab 5, and those are going to be the two tables that we're using. We are done in PHP so I'm going to go ahead and close that and come back to the description here. The first thing we're going to do is work on the initial page that shows up, which is this. So there's not much to it. It won't take us very long. So we'll come over to Dreamweaver. Now I am working locally and publishing up to the web server. I have my VPN enabled. I'm not on campus, so I have my VPN enabled. This one called CGT 356 assigns. I actually have pointing to a local directory on my C drive, and then if you have site and then you have servers. Under server, I have gone in and I have added, and I said I gave it a name. I chose local network because we map our drives, and then I searched for the folder that I was looking for, which was my base folder. It's not the Assignment 5 folder, it's the one above that. And then I hit save, and that populated in here. And what that's going to allow me to do, I'll show you here, is as I create things, I'll be able to publish them up. So if I right click on Assignment 5, do a new file, it throws this untitled.html in there. And let me, whoops, click the wrong button. Let me come out here. This is my local folder. You'll see that untitled was created. This is my server folder, which has a folder inside of it, but untitled is not there. We'll come back to Dreamweaver. I'll highlight this untitled. I'll click this up button. that says put files to 356 server. For this one I'm going to say no. It's asking about dependent files, so if you're linked to other files, which we're not, it's just a dummy file. But I'm going to say no. It's going to put that file up onto the web server, and now not only do I have untitled.html here, I also have it here. So that's going to allow me to work locally and then publish up when I want to. I'm going to go ahead and delete these now. It looks like Dreamweaver creates this folder for some reason. I'm going to delete it. It's probably going to recreate it, but that's okay. The reason I'm doing it this way is when I'm off campus, if I connect directly to the web server, Dreamweaver takes forever. It is a Dreamweaver thing. If I switch and I use Expression Web, it works much faster. But I like using Dreamweaver. So I'm going to work locally, and as I create things, I'll hit this refresh button and you'll see this disappear. I'm going to create things locally, and then as I want to test them in the web browser, I will publish them up, and then I'll go test them. So first thing, we create a new file, a new PHP, and this assignment's going to be XHTML5 compliant. So we'll choose HTML5 there. I'm going to go ahead and push this. Actually, I'll do a file save as, so you can see this get saved into the assignment 5 folder. And we're going to call this index.php. And you can see down here it gets saved in there. So now I'm going to push this off to give us a little more room. And now we want to come back to our standard page setup requirements. For this assignment, again, HTML5, we still need this echo statement at the very top. So we're going to copy this, and I'll go through this because there are a couple of differences. So at the top, we're going to put our opening PHP and our closing PHP, and we're going to paste in that echo statement. The doc type is simply this. It is doc type in all caps, HTML in all lowercase. You'll see that Dreamweaver for some reason puts it in wrong. You need to replace that so that it validates. We come back here, our HTML opening tag is going to be this, so we're going to copy it, and we don't have that there, so that gets our HTML opening tag, and then we need our meta tag, which is simply this, setting our character set to UTF-8, and it looks like that might actually be correct on that, but I'm going to paste it anyway to ensure that it is. Now, there's not a terrible lot left to this page that we have here. In the title, I'm going to go ahead and change it. We'll call it Assign05. I'll put a dash and then put index. The only time you're actually going to land on this index page is when it first loads. There's nothing in the menu to bring you back to it. So it's just a landing point for us. We're going to put in an H1 so that we are compliant with accessibility rules. I'm going to set the style on that like we normally do, text align it to center, and just again put Assign05 index. The next thing that goes in here is going to be a menu, but I'm going to finish out what's left here at the bottom, and then we'll create the menu because that'll be something new and different for you. So I'm going to have a div in here, I'm going to set the style inside of it, set the font style to italic, text align it to center as well, and set the font size to 9 pixels. And in that I'm going to just write the set of pages validates as HTML5 compliant. I'm going to put a break tag after that, followed by a non-breaking space. That's simply to force a little bit of a gap afterwards. And then there's one more div following that. This div we're going to center it, and inside of it, welcome to my Assign05 site. Now, all we need in here is our menu structure, and our menu, as I said, is going to be done a little bit differently from what you've done so far in the class. So we are going to go File, New, and it can really be anything, it doesn't matter. We're going to do a Control A and delete everything that's in there. We're going to have one line in this new file, and it's going to be a paragraph tag. So I'm going to do a paragraph, style, text align it to center, and then close paragraph. And then inside of there I'm going to have my 4 links. So I'm going to have select, I'll put a pipe in between each one, insert, update, and delete. Now that I have those, I'm going to make them all links. So in front of the select, I'm going to do an anchor tag with an href equals, and after the select I'm going to go ahead and put my closing anchor tag, and inside of my href I'm going to do select.php, and then I'm just going to duplicate that for the other links, and we'll just change the page that it goes to. So this one's going to go to delete.php. This one's going to go to update.php, and this one of course is going to go to insert.php. And we need our closing anchor tags after each one of those. And that's all there is to that file. We're done with that. So let's do a save as. We'll save this into our Assignment5 folder, but it's not going at the same level. We're going to put it into a folder that we're going to call includes. So I'm going to create a new folder, name it includes, and inside of that I'm going to name this menu.php. So now we've saved menu.php here. I can go ahead and close that. If I bring my files back out, you'll see that now under Assignment 5 I've got an includes folder, and inside of that includes folder I've got menu.php. So now what we need to do is come back to this index page, and we need to put an include statement in there, which is a PHP statement. So right where my cursor is, I'm going to add some PHP, and inside of there will be include, and we need to point it to a file to include. So we write the name of the folder that it is in /menu.php, and that will get us to that file. I'll do a control save, and now we can see on our local file that we've got our index, and we've got our includes folder, and we've got menu.php. And I'm going to come over here to the server files, and we don't have anything there yet, so let's go ahead and push those up. I've got index, I'll push it up, and menu, we'll go ahead and push it up. When we come back here to the server, now my files are there, and now I can test it. So let's come out here. And now you can see that you saw some change there that happened. So this is the location on the server where I can test this. If I try to navigate to any of these, we're going to get a 404 because we haven't created those yet. But you can see that the menu was pulled into this page as though it already exists. And that's what this include statement does. We're going to use that in a couple more places as well throughout this assignment. So you can imagine if you had a menu that was much more sophisticated than what we just created. Let's say you had a menu that had 30 different items in it. And you had a site that had 2,500 pages in it. By making the menu a separate page, anytime you add a new menu item or subtract one or change it, you only have to open that one page, menu.php, make the change there, save it, and it updates across the entire site. So rather than going to every single one of those 2,500 pages and looking at a menu and editing it, you can do it in one place and very quickly change your menu. We're also going to do examples of this with opening the database connection and closing the connection, because all of our pages use that and we don't want to duplicate it on every page. We want to pull it out and put it in a file of its own. This file is done, index.php, so we're done with that. We can go ahead and start the select page. Since as the introduction showed, all of the links that you click will redirect back to the select page. We should go ahead and start with the select page. Now I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this stuff, and I'm going to include the menu as well as that first div there. I'm going to copy that and everything through the opening body tag I'm gonna paste over so that we have that same starting piece. I'm going to change the word index to select here as well as here. Now to really start this page, we're gonna approach it a little bit differently, I suppose. If you come back to the website and you go to the weekly layout, and somewhere in that second column you're going to find an example called constr connection string, and if you load that, it's a plain text file, and I want you to copy. You can copy it all if you want. I'm only going to copy down to this set of comments right here. You can copy it all if you want, but if you look, the bottom part is actually commented out. What I've done is provide you with two pieces of code that do exactly the same thing. There's just different ways of writing it. So we're going to take this top part and use it. I'll copy it. I'll come back over here and I will paste it in, and I need to put a closing PHP delimiter there because it wasn't in what I copied. So now you can see that I've got a bunch of things that I have copied in here, and I want you to go ahead and read the comments. I'm not going to read it to you. I'm going to delete them out so that I can fit more on the screen. And now we've got a method of opening our database connection, selecting from the database, and displaying it, and then closing our database once again. So that's what you've copied and pasted into here. This top part connects to the database. the database we're using is on the same web server, which we call localhost. So we're going to leave that just like that, called localhost. Your ID is probably something like CGT 356 web number letter. So that's what you would put in there. Mine is this. Your password would be whatever your pass is, and mine is different. So I'm going to pause this, enter my password, and then make it so you can't see it. Okay, so I've entered my password. On the next line, I've just pushed that off to the side so that my password doesn't display. On the next line, MySQL select database. This is your database. Your database is going to be something like CGT 356 web number letter. So that's what I would expect you to put there. Mine is this, so that's what I will have. This next line checks to make sure that we successfully connected to the database. If we did not, it's going to echo an error message and then stop processing. But 99.9% of the time we are going to connect successfully, so this is just going to get passed over. The next line should look familiar. We've got a select statement. This says select distinct title from customers, and we may modify that some. Let's move on down here. The next line says result equals MySQL query. MySQL query is what you use to send your select statement or insert or update or delete. It's what you use to send your SQL statement to the database, get it executed, and then it stores the result back here. The next line checks to see if the result is empty. So if it's a select statement, we're expecting a result. Maybe it's one row in a spreadsheet, maybe it's 20 rows in a spreadsheet, whatever. But if it's empty, the number of rows is 0. If it's not empty, the number of rows is equal to MySQL num rows, and it will count it for us. And then the next line will loop through and write out the value from there. So we've got this base to start with. I'm going to change this table name here to a table that we are using. So we are using a table called users lab 5. Now I told you in the introduction you've got to be careful about capitalization. If you look at PHPMyAdmin, even though there was a capital L when you executed that, I'm pretty sure in PHPMyAdmin it changed it to a lowercase l for some reason. I can't really explain why it does that. If you don't mind, I'm going to delete this so that more will fit on the screen here so that we can see the bottom part. Now we don't know that there's a title in Users Lab 5, and I don't remember everything that was there, so let's come back to assignment 5 and we'll scroll down here and let's look at the table at the data that we had, and there is actually a title, so that'll work just fine for us. So let's leave that as is for the time being. Select title, num results. I'm actually not going to change anything else here. We just changed the table name, and I'm going to save that. And we don't want it in the includes folder. We want it up here with index, and we're going to save that as select.php. Once we've done that, we're going to push it up to the server. And then we can go test it. When we come out here to test this, I'll go ahead and refresh this page. And I'll hit select, and now we've got something being pulled from our database. So So let's come back here. We've basically copied and pasted this section in. We made one minor change to make it work. And now we're going to modify it further so that it looks like our solution would look. First thing I want to do is come to the very top, and our solution is going to use session variables. So inside of this opening PHP, I want to do session underscore start so that we can use session variables as part of this. Next, what I want to do is change this so that we are using two more include files. So I'm going to do a file new. Doesn't matter really what you choose. Control A, delete everything that's in there. Come back to the select page, and what we want to do is put the opening piece into this first file. So what I want to do is grab this part right here, and I'm going to cut it out of, and I think I'll actually start right here. I want to cut it out of this file, and I want to come over to this file and I want to paste it in. Now you may have to add your PHP delimiters to make it look correct. You may have to type that opening one and that closing one. But this is what we're going to have in here. We're going to go ahead and save this. We're not going to make any changes to it. We want to save it into that includes folder, and we're going to call this opendbcon.php. You'll see that appear down here in our files. We want to create one more file. Doesn't matter what you choose. Delete everything in it. Come back to your select page. Come down here, and we're just going to take this last part where there's MySQL close. We're going to cut it out, and we're going to paste it into this one. And again, we'll use our opening and closing PHP delimiters. We're going to save this as close dbcon. Now you might put more in this file later on, but we're going to have two included files that we'll use throughout now. So down here where I had that, I'm going to put an include statement. Type the name of the folder and file. And now that's going to act as though those lines of code are actually right there and part of it. This other include file, you could put just about anywhere as long as it's ahead of where we use the database at. So what I'm going to do is put it right here next to the other include file. So we'll include both of those at the same time. As we come back down here to look at what we have already done, I didn't talk about the word distinct before. Distinct is a keyword in SQL that says don't repeat things. So if I actually cut that out of there and have select title, I'll save that, and I need to go ahead and push all of these files back up. I'm going to push these files up. I'm going to make sure that they transferred properly. I've got my close dbcon, but I don't see my open dbcon there, so I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to separately just make sure that all of those get pushed up. And then when I come back here and hit select once again, oh, we've got a small problem. And I think what our problem is that I copied and pasted. So let's come back here, and this one right here should be open. So now let's save that again Let's push select back up. We'll come out here to test, reload that page. So back to what distinct does. You'll notice that sales representative repeats several times throughout there. But if I simply add the word distinct to that, select distinct title, save that, push it up once again, and refresh this page, now it will only list things once as they appear there. So now we can go back here and we can edit this so that it is actually what we want to choose for display. We're going to be selecting the user ID, last name, first name, and the title from Users Lab 5. So that hasn't changed too much. These next few lines you're not going to touch, so we're going to leave this the same and leave this the same. We'll scroll down here to the for loop that we need here. And this in particular is going to change a little bit. We're going to close our PHP here, and then we'll open it up once again. And inside of here, we need to put a table, or the start of a table, to house our results that we're going to display. I've gone ahead and typed out the structure of a table for us. I put in there some styles: border equals 0, width 500, some padding, margins, border spacing, and then there's this title. Title equals listing of employees, which is something you have to be compliant. And if you look inside here, this might be new to some of you. There's a T head for table head, T foot for table footer, and T body for table body. And what that does is, if we come back and look at the finished solution once again and go to the select page, it doesn't matter what order you put them in, but this gold part up here is the header, this part down here is the footer, and then all of the listing of data is the table body. So you can see as we come back here, we've listed T head first, then T foot, then T body. Those tags can be in any order, but when they get printed out, they'll be in the correct order. So the next thing we need to do is fill this out a little bit more. The table head is going to have a couple of rows in it. So inside of the table head, we'll do a TR and another TR. In the first table row, we're going to have a TH. Now the only tags that can go inside of T head are THs. So rather than the TDs. The TDs will be used down here. So we've got a TH, and that first TH is going to have a few things in it here for styles. First, it's going to span 4 columns based on the data that we're selecting. And we're going to have some styles inside of there. I've gone ahead and filled out the styles that we're using. So we've got font weight bold, the background color, text align, text decoration, and you'll see that the value that goes inside of the TH up here is users lab 5 table. That'll be in the gold part. In that second TR, you'll see we've got 4 TH tags for our 4 columns. And the values that need to go in there are what we have selected up here. So user ID, last name, first name, and title need to go into each one of these. And that is going to create for us this look across here. So we've got users lab 5 table, our 4 table headings with the gold background. And that's what we've accomplished in that t-head, and that completes the t-head. The t-foot has some information in it. It's got one th, so we'll put a table row in there, and inside of that, actually sorry, one td, not a th but a td. It's going to span 4 columns if I type correctly. It's going to span 4 columns, have a couple of styles in it, text align it to center and font style italic. And then it's simply going to say this right here, information pulled from, and actually that's not entirely true because I changed the table name, but the data is actually. So we'll paste that in there. Information pulled from the Northwind database, close that table data cell, and that's all we have for the footing. And then inside of the t-body is where a lot of the rest of what we need to do goes. So what we actually need to do is take this for loop. I'm going to start with the opening PHP down to, sorry, not that far. I'm going to start with this comment and get that for loop, and I'm going to cut that out. I'm going to leave the include statement down there at the bottom, and in between the opening and closing t-body, I'm going to paste that for loop, and I'll highlight it and use tab to move it over into place. And now what we're going to do is for every item that is returned, we are going to create a row in the table. So the for statement is fine the way it's written. I equal to 0, I less than the number of records or the number of rows returned, increment I each time through. MySQL fetch array gets a row out of the spreadsheet. So think of the result, $result, as a spreadsheet. MySQL fetch array gets one row at a time, and it stores it into this variable called row, and then we're going to echo out those values. But after this MySQL fetch array is where we need to create our row. So inside of this opening and closing PHP, we've actually closed our PHP, so right here is HTML. We're going to create a single table row. Remember, one row for every time through the loop. So one row, and there's 4 columns in this table, so we need 4 TD cells. These TD cells are going to have some styles. We're going to set a border right on it. Give it 1 pixel, solid, and black. That's all we're going to set there. And then, as I said, we need 4 of those. So I'm going to copy and paste it 4 times. But this last one I don't want to have this border, so I'm going to get rid of it. And so it's just going to have a TD there. And in between these, I'm just going to put the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 for right now. And then we're going to save this and kind of see what it looks like here. This echo row is going to look a little funky though, so I'm just going to cut this out for the time being. Control X and save that. We need to push it up. So we'll come to select, push it up to the server, come back to our assignment and load this, and you'll see that each time through it created one row, and we've just echoed out 1, 2, 3, and 4 several times as we went through there. So now let's come back to our solution, And instead of having 1, 2, 3, and 4 in there, we need to actually have the data from the database in there. So inside of here is where our echo statement is going to go. But instead of pasting that back in, what I'm going to do is actually type it in. So we're inside of each one of these, we're going to open and close our PHP inside of the open and close TD tags. Inside of there is going to be an echo statement. And inside of the echo statement, we are going to use $row with double quotes, and this first one is going to be user ID. Now, something that I need to add here that I want you to realize, you should always use trim on data pulled from the database. The reason being is that when you pull data from a database, it will pull more than the characters actually stored. So if you stored 5 characters into a 30-character field, it will pull 30 characters, including the 5 you stored. So inside of the echo, I put trim, open parenthesis, and then I put the closing parenthesis on the other side of row. And then I'm going to copy this entire PHP section right here. I'm going to do a copy, and inside of here I'm going to do paste, paste, and paste, and then we need to change this to last name, and then first name, and then finally we'll change this to title. We'll do a save, come over here, and we'll push it up to the server. Now that it's pushed up, we'll come back here and we'll hit select once again, and we'll see that all of our data has been pulled and is being displayed the way that we want it to be. Now the next part is displaying this table down below, which will go much, much faster than this first part because we will copy and paste much of what we just did. We'll start by, after this table here, we'll put a bit of a line break in there, and we'll simply do a non-breaking space inside of there. And next what we need to do is go back up and start at the SQL equals and select everything that is there. We will copy from the opening SQL all the way down through this closing table. I'm going to copy that, and below this paragraph that I just added, I'm going to go ahead and paste that data back in there. And now essentially if we do a save here and push that up again, we should get the same table twice at this point. So as you see, we've got 2 of the same table there. If we come back and modify this quickly, we are no longer selecting from, well, it's not scrolling properly, we're no longer selecting from this table, we're selecting from Shippers Lab 5. We're no longer selecting these columns, we are selecting shipper ID, company name, and phone from that. You're not going to touch those lines. As we come down here to the table, we're not going to have 4 columns, we're going to have 3 columns. And so in those 2 places we change from 4 to 3. In this middle one we've got to get rid of one of the THs, and again we change these to be shipper ID, company name, and phone. As we move down a little bit further, this for loop stays the same, but once again I don't need 4. I'm going to get rid of one of these, and what we need to write out is shipper ID, company name, and then we'll change this one to phone. And I think there might be one other place that was off the screen. up here in the table header, instead of users lab 5 table, we need shippers lab 5 table. We'll save that. Let's push it up. It's saved there, and let's refresh this page. And now we have a completed Assignment 5 select page with the users lab 5 table, our 4 columns, the data in those 4 columns, our shippers lab 5 table, the 3 columns, the data in those 3 columns. From here, I'll make a separate video for the next step that we need to go through. But actually, before we do that, there is one last line of code. We come down here, before close DB connection, we want to put MySQL underscore free underscore result, and we want to pass it in $result, and that will finish this page.